hybrid cloud extension, right? This is a built-in migration service from VMware. This allows the customers or enables the customers to either move or vMotion their workloads to the cloud without application downtime or with minimal application downtime. Right. So a business might only want to move or migrate a specific application to the cloud. VMC on AWS is ideal for such a use case because there is no need to re-platform from an on-premises VMware environment to AWS. The customer can just run their application the same way that they would usually do on VMware Cloud on AWS. The next use case, and these use cases are not independent, or not. That's not the right word. They're not mutually exclusive. A customer may decide to do a mixture of these four. Right. The second use case is when the customers want to extend the data center. Right. Not examples where the customers are looking to extend their on-premise data center to the cloud, where the reason could be a variety of things, like either they want to expand because of the increased demand, like in these days, as an example, due to the COVID-19 situation. A lot of businesses find themselves being sort of pushed or put into a corner where they either have to reinvent or they die, right? I know this doesn't sound very positive, but it's literally the case, right? Where they have to reinvent the way in which they engage with their customers, reinvent the way in which they do business, collect money, or sell their services, or they risk not being able to get any revenue, right? Die, literally, right? So, and this particularly this topic particularly resonates with me because in the 3 years that I was running my own business, I ran into the ground. I lost virtually everything I had. The only thing that I had to my name were two coins, a $1 coin and a 20-cent coin. Now, I was born and raised in Singapore. Right, so I'm a true blue Singaporean. A lot of people have told me that I don't sound remotely like a Singaporean, but I am. It was coming off from a childhood in an average family where I've had a lot of success in my academic path. I went to the good schools. I went to one of the top schools in Singapore. This kind of failure was something new to me, right? With only a $1 coin and a 20-cent coin in my pocket, I was drinking out of public toilets. Let's just say I was very close to declaring bankrupt. So it got me really curious as to what makes or breaks a business. Literally, what would make or break a business? And I have found that innovation is the one and only key. All right. I talk in detail with regards to this when it comes to other business courses like Foundations Business, where we discuss how do we bring a customer into a cloud conversation, right? But it's for a different story for a different day. But when it comes to data center extension, there is a very high applicability because if we just isolate trying to engage with customers and we think along the lines of, let me give an example, the food and beverage industry, F&B. So today in Singapore, and I think in some areas in India as well, the government has put in place some very stringent measures where the restaurants, well, basically food and beverage outlets, they can operate, but they only allow for either takeaway or delivery, right? So Singaporeans cannot eat on site, right? They have to buy and take away, or they use a food delivery service. Now, for the F&B industry, this is very damaging, or rather, this is very disruptive to their business because not all restaurants are geared up for this. There is an example that I've heard of is Mexican restaurant, right, where they only have one phone line, And because of the situation, that phone line became their single point of failure, because when a customer calls in and places an order, other customers can't call in, right? So it's not about the scale of operations of that restaurant and whether if they could cook fast enough to serve the customers. They could only take one order at one time, right? So the only way that they could deal with such a situation and provide good customer experience was to reinvent how they serve their customers. And what they did was to engage with an AWS partner. They used a service called, I'm going to just type it in the chat box here, called Amazon Connect. This is a AI/ML based service that allows customers to create a customer service platform, right? So when customers call in, they can place orders. It's automated. The customers can also decide to enable a chatbot function to take orders as well. And this helped that restaurant immensely. All right. So this is just an example of, innovate or die kind of a situation. It is getting, as far as my observations and sensors tell, yes, it is a automated AI/ML based contact center solution. Thank you, Deb Gary. And this has a lot of value for customers. Now, when it comes to VMware Cloud on AWS, right? As far as data center extension goes, we make it really easy for them. The customers, be it for whatever reason, extending their footprint, improving their application or user proximity, to scale on-demand capacity for seasonal or temporal business needs, VMC on AWS enables customers to provision for a VMware clusters in various geographic locations within a very short time. Think along the lines of 2 hours or so, right? And after doing that, the customers can scale up or down the clusters in minutes without having to buy any new hardware or wait for logistics or deal with any of those lead times that would otherwise surface, right? One of my personal horrors when it comes to provisioning for an on-premise data center was having to wait 6 months, right, for the availability of the hardware. And this was because it was kind of an anomaly. But I had to go through something called EOL and product transitioning, where the new products have to undergo local hardware certification, testing and certification. And that took a really, really long time, right? So when customers do things like this, footprint expansion, on-demand capacity, even down to dev and test, right? They do not need to buy and try. They do not need to wait. Provisioning is done really, really quickly. Okay. The next piece of disaster recovery is also very close to my heart, because if we take in the true spirit of disaster recovery, it literally means that the customers have to provision for a quote unquote a mirror image of their production environment, right? And decide upon the right sort of failover or disaster recovery strategy to meet their RPO and RTO requirements. To do something like that is a very costly investment for any given customer, right? So for the most part, a lot of companies don't do that, right? Or they embark on a DR strategy that's suboptimal, suboptimal when compared to their RPO or RTO requirements. So disaster recovery is one where customers may want to eliminate having an on-premise dedicated disaster recovery site because it's costly. It means that they have to spend 2x when they're using 1x. Right? VMware Cloud on AWS then becomes a very attractive cloud-based solution that helps customers with reducing cost and providing that on-demand site protection while giving them the ability to scale and then meet their RPO and RTO needs. So VMware Cloud on AWS can protect the customer's additional workloads, replace their costly on-premise disaster recovery data center, and in doing so, in parallel, give them a means to modernize the way they handle disaster recovery. As a great example of that, right? There is a native service from VMware called SRM. Let me just type it down on the chat for all of you. SRM stands for a Site Recovery Manager, right? This is a tool that helps customers with their disaster recovery. And it helps them to easily recover their site, so to speak. Yes, you're right, Dhananjay, it's Site Recovery Manager. So, but I have to say though, this is not within the scope of today, but it's just additional information for you. Now, this is a native VMware tool, right? Native VMware service, and it is chargeable though, right? It is chargeable. So please feel free to jump on to an earlier link that I've shared with everyone. To understand the costs when it comes to pricing for SRM as an example. Okay. Now, and as part and parcel of disaster recovery, we need to also think about the applications that customers would have. Broadly term them as enterprise applications, right? Which is the fourth use case. So enterprise applications, including right the most resource intensive ones, such as an Oracle RAC, right, RAC, Real Application Cluster, or things like a Microsoft SQL Server, or workloads that revolve around Apache Spark or Hadoop when they're thinking about big data and analytics, right, and as well as VMware Horizons 7 and above even, right? All these have been tested and they all run successfully on VMware Cloud on AWS, right? This gives customers a whole lot of confidence when they are moving their applications. And as an addition to this, right, provisioning for a Microsoft SQL Server on AWS is a really fast thing to do. SQL Server or other things like SharePoint, right? Provisioning for a SharePoint on AWS takes a little less than 3 hours for a fully functional SharePoint server. And I was saying a little bit out of scope, but I seriously think that it's useful, and I've been told so. Something called AWS Quick Starts. You might want to give this a check. Now, AWS Quick Starts is a repository of gold standard, most frequently deployed workloads on AWS. So it comes in packs. Every pack will contain a CloudFormation template that allows you to use a service called CloudFormation on AWS to quickly spin up that environment and provision for it. And it also comes with a guide, right? So I would encourage you to look into this if you're looking at use cases as well, right? And on top of that, I want to lend a further data point to this. As far as Windows workloads go, and this was really surprising to me when I first found out, as of today, we have almost 2 times the number of Windows workloads on AWS compared to the next biggest cloud provider. Yes, you heard me right. Almost 2 times as many Windows workloads on AWS compared to the next biggest cloud provider, right? And I was seriously surprised, and I was trying to figure out why. And one of the reasons I found out was because of the amount of experience that AWS has. Now, we're actually agnostic when it comes to workloads. We are, very customer obsessed in our own words. We think about what the customers want, and we develop and build things that help customers achieve what they want to achieve. And Windows workloads are very common workloads. As a data point to that, we've been running Windows workloads on AWS at least 2 years before Azure even existed. Right. So I hope that in thinking about VMware workloads, as well as the associated workloads coming off of that, like Oracle racks or databases or Windows workloads, you will see that AWS is a prime choice for a lot of customers. And on top of that, I would like to share with you some case studies, like customers like Trend Micro. Yeah, Trend Micro is a partner of ours. They're a technology partner, but they are also a customer of AWS. They have migrated onto AWS. A company called Playtika, if I may just write that down for you. Just off the top of my mind, Playtika is also a very good cloud migration case study. Now, if you're thinking on the lines of a data center extension, one right off the top of my mind is a company called PHH Mortgage. Right. This is a very good example of how this mortgage company got to realize true business benefits by extending into AWS on VMC. For disaster recovery, we could probably, Black Mountain. Black Mountain is a good case study as well. And for enterprise applications, probably Stagecoach. Right. So I would encourage you to spend a little bit of time and look through these case studies. All right. I have more to share with everyone. Now, before we move on to the next module called Selling VMware Cloud on AWS, I want to revisit that little video that I shared with everyone during the break. And I sincerely hope that you've had the time to view it. So that video was interesting because it belongs. It's one of the videos that we have in our repository called "This Is Our Architecture," where partners and customers share with everyone their architecture on AWS and the amazing sort of innovations they've come up with. And if you're starting to think that there are a lot of similarities that I've been talking about, like scalability, agility, elasticity, high availability, being able to fail over, disaster recovery, and it's starting to seem as if VMware Cloud in AWS is parallel to AWS, you are not wrong. And that's primarily because VMware Cloud on AWS is built on AWS. It's using AWS services. It's constructed using that. Okay, how are we tracking so far, everyone? Has it been useful to you so far? If you can let me know in the chat, I would appreciate it. Thank you, Venu. Thank you, Firoz. You're very kind. Thank you, Dhananjay. Going good. Thank you, Alok. Thank you, Nikunj. Right. Use cases and video is helpful. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Thank you, Devgiri. There is another case study. This is a video case study that I would like to share with you as well. There are reasons why I'm being purposefully selective when it comes to case studies or video case studies. And that's because of the industries that they cover. Right. What I'm trying to do is to provide you with the widest case studies. Widest in terms of industries, so that you can think about where to best do that mapping when it comes to selecting customers for engagement. Okay. So this one I'm sharing with you is an older one. It's from a company called Scripps Networks Interactive. So Scripps Networks Interactive is a leading provider of lifestyle video and content, right? For example, Food Network or HDTV or Travel Channel. I'm a fan of Food Network until in Singapore they took it off. I enjoy cooking in my spare time. So they are global in scale. They have about, if memory serves me right, about 4,000 employees worldwide, including their subsidiaries, and they were living in a. I think they still are living in a hybrid cloud world where they have portions of their applications on premise and other portions in AWS, with a number of different assets, like video files, recipes, closed caption files, and all of these are stored in S3 today. Right, a simple storage service. Right, it operates out of, if memory serves me right, 2 on-premise data centers. Largely virtualized, right? But they had a challenge to build a scalable and reliable DR solution for these data centers. So I hope that this is a very interesting case study for you. And on top of this, right, I would like to allude to Netflix. Netflix is built on AWS. And in these times of uncertainty brought about by the COVID-19 situation, I think a lot of folks are being asked to work from home. And a lot of schools might not necessarily be operating. So the content creation and content distribution companies such as Netflix see a spike in terms of consumption. And it gives me a great honor to share with everyone that we've not seen any kind of service failure coming off of Netflix for our customers. Specific to India, I believe you are familiar with something called Hotstar. If you can let me know in the chat, I would appreciate that. Yes, that is on AWS as well. And while they were screening or streaming and screening, one of the biggest sports in India, cricket, right? That was on AWS, right? It was the numbers were absolutely mind blowing when I first got to hear about that. So, and we have not let them down. Okay. And beyond those that I have shared with you, these are more customers who are specifically are on VMC on AWS. So not only do we have adoption in every industry, right? Think gaming, financial services, healthcare, professional services, transportation, universities, but from every customer profile, like from small startups, SMBs, to large Fortune 500 companies, we continue to grow this customer base and our services at a very quick pace, lightning pace, if I can say so. Customers such as Shutterfly, Whirlpool, Merck, right, have very recently chosen VMware Cloud on AWS, just to name a few. And these are very recent, as of 2019, second half. They were the newest and most significant deals from a project size or revenue perspective, right? So I hope this helps you. Now, let's move on to when we are mapping, we also need to profile and identify some of the target audiences and think about how to approach them, right? So this next piece is about identifying the target audiences. Selling VMC on AWS, we see that the customers really come from a very broad range of industries supporting a diverse set of workloads, right? Oil and gas, financial services, and the rest that I've said just now. And all these organizations are have different requirements. But the commonality is that we find that a lot of companies have existing VMware workloads anyway. So it's a very easy win to convince them to say, hey, why don't we start off a POC on AWS with VMC and see how it goes for you, right? The key characteristics that we would look out for in some of these customers. And what I'm going to share with you, I get a little bit nervous because, again, this is not AWS says, certainly not Casper says. I just want to share with you some of our views, and hopefully this is useful to you, right? All of you have your experiences, and you have your own way of engaging with your customers, and you are most clued in to the nuances of doing business in your home countries, and we fully respect that, right? But I'm just going to go ahead and forge into some of these profiles. For business folks, right? They are interested in migrating to the cloud, or have a cloud mandate policy to do so. So what we have realized is that they might have a requirement to migrate some or all of their workloads quickly to the cloud. Time is a big concern to them. They are worried about the risk, security as well. But the biggest thing for them is they want to be able to do all these, satisfy all security requirements, make it as low risk as possible with minimal disruptions as quickly as they can. And as part of this, being able to do it quickly, they are reluctant to refactor their applications. They will definitely be good with rehosting, maybe with replatforming, but they certainly want to stay away from refactoring because that takes time. And on top of that, they seek to maximize on the existing skill sets they have, as well as the technology investments that they have already made. So they're not about to go and write off all these assets that they have readily, right? They want to be able to milk it a little bit more. So these are, sort of the business profile of people that we think, right, if you are looking for these four things, then VMC Cloud is a good option for you. Okay. Now, from an operations perspective, right, for operational people, we see some behaviors as well, where either one, they're currently using VMware vSphere 5.0 or later in their on-premises data center, or they're using or they plan to adopt more advanced VMware products, such as NSXT or vSAN or the vRealize suites, or move on to Horizon 7. Right? They may have a requirement for additional data center capacity that is on demand because they can't predict it anymore, especially in these times where they might not even have a physical manpower on site in their data centers, right? They might find this a challenge, right? They are considering a cloud-based disaster recovery solution because increasingly they're not satisfied with their on-premise DR's center and environment. And last but not least, they want to achieve all of these while being able to reduce the cost that they otherwise would have. And again, in times of crisis, in times of uncertainty like today, especially when IMF have very recently announced that we are in a global recession, I personally feel that we've never come out of the previous global economic crisis. But here we are finding ourselves sinking into a bigger one, right? In such a situation where they're trying to sort of balance, right, their operational costs alongside with the impact that has been brought about by the current situation on their top line. They want to reduce costs and remain profitable, or at least be able to sustain their business. Now, they're looking for someone to help them to do that. And technology is a very good way for them to do so, right? And speaking of technology, they might have specific requirements, right? On the technology point of view, they might have specific requirements such as being able to do multicasting, or having shared storage, or even down to running native Windows operating systems where they're sick and tired of the licensing that they have, or the punitive contracts they're being sucked into where they don't get a reprieve in these times, right? So some of the questions or qualifying questions that we think is worth keeping at the back of the minds. I'm going to share 9 of these with you. And you will find that all of these are very basic questions, right? So it's nothing out of the ordinary, just a means to have a more structured approach so that when you start engaging with the customers, having anticipated the questions that they may not otherwise raise might be a quick way for you to earn their trust, right? So some of these answers from the customers surrounding these questions can help you to determine whether if they are good candidates and whether if they are ready candidates to adopt VMC on AWS, right? For example, right, to the question of whether if they currently use VMware, if the answer is yes, then straightforward, you will know that, hey, do you know that you can scale and extend, right? If the answer to the question of when is your next data center infrastructure refresh, if the answer is, well, we're planning to do that within the next 6 months, then they're probably a good candidate for VMC on AWS as well, because we're talking about a short time frame. That being said, my personal observation and experience, and this is also coming primarily from before joining AWS, right? 85 to 90% of the business revenue that I used to drive for my ex-employer was coming off of government projects around the Southeast Asia and Northeast Asia region, right? I looked after these for them. And as far as government budgeting and planning and all these things go, I found that the sweet spot is actually 10 months before the actual event itself. So you might want to take a look at 10 months rather than 6 months, but if they're saying 6 months, they essentially have no time. All right, so it might be a prime candidate for VMC on AWS. When it comes to the question, example, when does your data center contract end, right? If the current contract is set to expire over the next 6 to 10 months, then again, they are a good candidate for the VMC on AWS solution. Now, if their data center contract end date is more than 6 months or 10 months away, then it might not be a pressing need. So you might want to think about re-strategizing. The question to me, I think it's a very pertinent one. Are they planning to use NSX or vSAN? Right? If they're considering to adopt these technologies, then VMC on AWS would be a good choice for them, because when they're extending and adopting these technologies on AWS, or more specifically on VMware Cloud on AWS, then they will find that this is a good opportunity for a proof of concept, where they can start to, at the same breath, not just realize their business requirements, but also experiment on the scalability that they otherwise would struggle to provision for in an on-premise and situation, right? And we have a whole bunch of these, but I want to focus on one last one, which is: are you required to work with data sovereignty rules and compliance? This has got a lot to do with the government's view of regulatory compliance in their native country. Data sovereignty is basically the concept, right, that information that has been converted and stored in binary digital form, right, data, right, is subjected to the laws of the country where it's located. How will depend on the country's view on data classification as well as data residency. What kind of data needs to remain in country on-prem, right? It's down to that level of specificity. So if customers need to follow data sovereignty rules and compliance, they might be a good candidate, because if there are data that they need to keep on-prem, then a hybrid approach is good for them, but they might run into trouble with scalability. Then that's why extending to AWS is a good option. Okay? Right. So I hope this is useful for you in framing your thoughts. Now, we've been talking so far about what is suitable, what is suitable, what is suitable. I think it's also good to carry a balanced view on what is not suitable. Right. So this next piece we're going to spend a little bit of time on is what is not the right solution. So if you have customers who have extended their data center lease very recently, and it looks like they're going to be stuck in that contract for the next 2 to 3 years, move on. Don't waste time. right? If customers are not using VMware right now, talking to them about VMware Cloud on AWS might not necessarily be the best choice. You might want to talk to them. You can still talk to them about cloud and about AWS Cloud, but they might not necessarily need VMware because they're not using it, right? Or three, if they don't even have the intention to move to the cloud in the first place, right, then we would talk to them about why cloud rather than VMware, right? And last but not least, if they have some sort of requirement, right? Although increasingly rare, but some sort of requirement to keep all their workloads on premise, well, again, they are not ideal for you. Okay. When it comes to regions, and I've said that we have 17 regions altogether. This is where I want to share this link with you. So I have left this link on the training materials that you will receive from me at the end of today, I promise you. But on top of that, I want to share this link, right? So it gives you a very quick view on VMware Cloud on AWS, some of the frequently asked questions, the available regions. I'm happy to report that Mumbai as a region, we have VMC on AWS available. Cool. So far, so good, everyone. Thank you, Venu. Thank you, Debgiri. Thank you, Hazel and Firoz. I like to ask these questions because I just also want to take the opportunity and make sure that you don't have any audio or visual issues, right? All right, okay. Now, having said all of these, we know that there are many case studies, many references that you can use coming off of AWS especially, and VMware has their own set of tooling that you can use as well. This next piece, I hope to bring more value to you because I want to uncover what are the opportunities are there for you as a partner. Now, this is how you earn money. Okay, so there are four broad categories where you can see revenue. You can create business revenue from, right? And this complements VMware Cloud on AWS. So for strategic consulting or strategy consulting or strategic consultancy, partners help customers define their IT strategies. So as a partner, you can help your customers with their IT strategy in many ways. Either one, you can help your customers determine whether or not they should go all in the cloud, and if not, it's a hybrid solution. What goes first, what goes second, what are the various phases, and the who, what, where, when, why, how, from a planning and discovery phase. All right. Number two, you can help them to plan out their implementation of VMC on AWS. Right. Third, you can help them to perform things like assessment. Right, you can assess the customer's applications and services, sort of the discovery, right, to help them to determine what are the interdependencies, what are applications listening to, what is suitable for migration first, as a first phase, as a second phase, whether it requires refactoring or it's just a simple rehosting or it's just extension, right? And fourthly, you can help them to identify what should remain on premise as well, because it's not about what needs moving, it's about what else, what simply cannot be moved. And last but not least, you can also help them to look into the cost of migration, the cost of operations, as well as understand the effects of the migration, the so what. What am I getting out of this as a customer? All right, so these are very important things that you can do for the customer. When it comes to application development and integration, right, and this is another way that you can help customers and generate additional revenue, right? By helping them to do this sort of application development, helping them to integrate their applications. And you can do all of these in VMC on AWS or just by using AWS services in and of itself, right? Depending on the situation. When it comes to managed services, though, this is a very broad spectrum because managed services come in many flavors. Like, for example, invoicing is a managed service. But if we're thinking along the lines of billing or invoicing, I would strongly encourage you to look beyond just being able to provide the customers with a single means or an aggregated means to pay for what they use in the cloud. Think along the lines of helping the customers understand where the costs would come from, and then, for example, helping them to determine and isolate the most expensive single line of code and optimize against those, right? That has a whole lot of value, okay? You can manage infrastructure for them. You can monitor it. You can manage the security for them. Your organization could also sell these services on an annual or monthly subscription. You can sell the service, VMC on AWS, on a per system, per user, or per workload perspective. And in addition, you can also manage customer workloads. Like, for example, a customer wants to run Oracle on AWS. So you can provide a managed service to help them to run that Oracle rack for them as as a partner, right? So managed services partner, or MSP in general, these sort of engagements can generate a pretty substantial, sizable uplift in your revenue, right? And last but not least, when it comes to repeatable solutions, a lot of our partners have got their, signature architecture, a signature solution, or the signature SaaS services. So this is one of the ways in which a partner organization can grow and help customers to build a repeatable practice. In other words, your organization can develop CloudFormation templates, things like best practices, or even artifacts or solutions where one customer can readily deploy it for many customers, right? And by building these templates and intellectual property IPs, you can reduce the time to solution delivery for other customers through even thinking about automation. All right, so all of these attributes to revenue that you can get when working with AWS, as well as VMware when you're running that VMC or reselling that VMC on AWS to your customers. I have spent a pretty large amount of time, a sizable amount of time walking through this because this answers the question of how do you be profitable when it comes to VMware Cloud on AWS, when VMware actually is the one who's operating and selling this, right? Where you only are involved in a resell motion where margins might not necessarily be all that much. Okay. Now, certainly when it comes to AWS services, you can work yourself up the partner tiers, but the sort of resell margins coming off of AWS services range between 3% to 7%. Right? It's not going to make or break your business. It's certainly on an individual level, not going to help you to earn the big bucks. The gravy comes from all of these services. Now, all of these other opportunities. And if you would like to dive a little bit deeper, or if you have your management thinking about restructuring the business to optimize it to be more profitable with AWS, we have a separate course that's meant for such decision makers. It's called, I'm going to just type it in. The course is called Building Your Business. This is a half-day business strategy course where we share with business decision makers how they can be profitable by leveraging off of the experience. It's actually a study done on the top 8 to 10 most successful partners on AWS. So we'll share with everyone how they earn their money, how they structure their business, and where their various revenue streams come from. Okay, so if you're interested in this, please do feel free to reach out to your partner development representative or your partner managers, and we can structure these courses or sessions for you. Okay, so far so good, everyone. Do you have any questions with regards to partner opportunities? No, I'm sensing no. Pricing structure. Yes, absolutely. Don't worry about that, Dhananjay. We have a module dedicated for that coming up shortly. Right. Now, can I have VMC and AWS? Yes, absolutely, Vikram. Absolutely. And this is the reason why it is very important to note, and this is coming off the base of that the synergy between VMware and AWS. Because we co-engineer, we have hundreds of co-engineering and working on VMC on AWS. Because of this very tight integration, customers have more resources. It's not just about the VMware workloads. It's about having that access to AWS services to complement the other VMware workloads on AWS. Right. Networking, yes. Yeah, so for connectivity, they have to spin up their VPCs, do VPC peering, bridging their on-premise infrastructure to AWS, right? Reaching into a VPC, they can use services such as, they can either use their IPsec VPN connection or a hardware VPN connection or a dedicated line from an internet service provider, or they can use something called the AWS Direct Connect. Let me just very quickly type it out on here on the chat. This is a service provided by AWS Direct Connect partners, where it is a dedicated connection between the customer's on-premise environment, connecting into the Direct Connect co-location facility that sits with our Direct Connect partners, which then goes into the AWS backbone network infrastructure. Right. So the good thing, one of the biggest benefits of using Direct Connect is that customers retain or have the ability to partition the single Direct Connect pipe into multiple virtual interfaces. And they retain full control over the throttling across the various virtual interfaces. Right, so this is very high value in delivering, the sort of network consistency in bridging between on-prem and their cloud on AWS. It also gives them the kind of granular control over how they would like to prioritize the various workloads and the data transfers between them. Okay. So here are some examples, and if they have multiple virtual private clouds, VPCs, they can do VPC peering, but I am a fan of this new service from AWS called the Transit Gateway, where in a single, off of a single pane of glass, in a single management console, they have full control over how that data moves and connects across not just the various VPCs and subnets, but also their various accounts. Right? This is a hub and spoke kind of a service, right? Where they can manage the security as well as the flow logs. Cool. Right. Now, as a further dive deep on of these, right? One of the emerging, I think, it should be one of the most important things when it comes to a hybrid cloud environment for AWS customers is this new service we have just launched in December last year called Outposts. Outposts is great. It is a server rack from AWS. where it's fully stacked with the AWS custom hardware. Now, this is a fully managed service from AWS, right? And it comes in two flavors. Before I go into the two flavors that you see right in front of you, I want to share that link with you. Give me a second. Boom. Here you go, folks. If you click, well, I might as well just do it here as well. Whoops. You can see my browser. This is what it looks like, right? Now, Outpost is designed to be the bridge between a customer's on-premise environment to AWS, where the aim, the purpose is to give customers the very seamless and consistent AWS experience, and being able to bring that from the AWS cloud to their on-premise environment. All right. So it is not designed to replace the existing server racks. It's certainly not designed for customers to build an on-premise data center. It is a bridge, right? And with this, we want to bring the experience to on-prem to a degree where customers, off of some of the services that's hosted on Outposts, right, directly, where they see single-digit millisecond latency, right, and bring that value to them. Okay, makes sense to you? But for me, I think this has a lot of applicability and relevance to a lot of countries where customers are in the early stage, where they are thinking of migrating to the cloud and trying to build out that hybrid infrastructure. Now, the relevance to our topic for today, VMware Cloud on AWS, is that Outpost comes in two flavors, right? Two variants. The first variant is a AWS native variant, where it allows customers to use the same APIs and the same control plane that they use in the AWS cloud to build and run their applications, but to do it on-premise, right? So customers will be able to run, like, for example, EC2 instances and EBS volumes on Outposts, right? And also they can at launch or soon after use services such as RDS, the relational database service that we have that has got 6 relational database engines in terms of compatibility. Things like MySQL, SQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle, MariaDB, as well as our homebrew Aurora, right? On top of that, they can also use services like ECS, right? Our Docker container service that is free for customers. And if they prefer to run containers that are of a Kubernetes flavor, we have EKS, right? It's Kubernetes containers for them. These are also free, right? If customers want to make use of our platform as a service, AIML platform as a service, service called SageMaker, where they can spin up their Jupyter notebooks, choose from any one of our 18, we have the broadest, right? 18 AIML algorithms or models. Feel free to do so. With one click, ingest data from a target source, from a source, ingest it onto SageMaker and begin training the model. And once it's satisfied with the accuracy of the prediction or the inference or whatever outcome they're seeking, with one click, use SageMaker to deploy it to production in the cloud, or even to deploy to the edge. Right. On that note, if customers want to run big data and analytics, we also have EMR. It's short for Elastic Map Reduce. This is a service to help customers create and manage their Hadoop clusters without them really knowing how to use Hadoop. Right. So some of these services will be supported, right, locally on the AWS native variant of Outposts. And other services such as S3, DynamoDB, Lambda, or serverless compute, they will be available as private link endpoints on the customer's own VPC in AWS, right? Now, this is one variant. The second variant is to allow customers to This is the VMware variant, right? Allow customers to run VMC on AWS locally on Outposts and extend this control plane on VMC on AWS in the cloud, right? So it's the same control plane and APIs that they use to run their on-premises infrastructure. It delivers the entire VMware SDDC, software-defined data center, right? Things like compute, storage, networking infrastructure, and then have that run on-premise using AWS Outposts, and allows customers to take advantage of the ease of management as well as the ease of integration with other AWS services, right? Now, Outposts is a fully managed service, and what we literally mean in AWS is that Outposts is installed, operated, and managed by AWS. The underlying hardware and the firmware updates, patching, all of these are done by AWS, right? So this removes the needs for customer managed repairs or patching. They don't have to worry about owning the hardware. Cool. And the support for Outposts, right, is the same kind of support that they get from AWS. Same support channels, depending on what kind of support program that they have signed up for, right? It could be like a developer support plan, enterprise support plan, business support plans, each with their own unique SLAs. Right, it even includes things like a 24/7 sort of support channel and response. Right, we are shooting for 2 business week delivery timeline for new capacity or upgrades, and also a 2 business day timeline for hardware replacement. Okay, so these are sort of the SLAs that we are seeking to achieve with Outposts. On top of this, right? So it's not an experience where it's like AWS experience or it's AWS compatible experience. Outpost is AWS. We bring the AWS experience on premise so that they can build an effective hybrid cloud environment. So far, so good on Outpost. I hope it is clear for you. And I hope that you can see, some opportunities coming off from Outposts. Cool. Right. Do let me know. Do feel free to let me know if you have any questions. All right. Or you have a comment or a feedback, right? And also do let me know if I'm going too fast, too slow, and all that kind of stuff. How does Outpost provide single-digit millisecond latency? Right, good question, Dhananjay. We have our own way at AWS of optimizing our hardware. So the hardware itself looks into and deals with the IOPS as well as the throughput. And on top of that, the connection between Outpost to AWS utilizes direct connect as well, right? So we manage that sort of network consistency where if customers are using the native services built into Outposts, so naturally they will have single-digit millisecond latency because it's there on-prem anyway, right? And Outpost is connected to what they have in their on-premise data center, right? If they are using services that's not natively built into Outposts, then it goes through that connection, the direct connect connection into their AWS cloud, and therefore you have that kind of very nice environment and experience set out for them. Cool. And then for India, thank you. You're very kind. For India, especially because we have a region in Mumbai. Right, so in that sense, the data packets don't have to travel across the AWS backbone network infrastructure to a region that's outside of India, and that would resolve some of the latency as well. Right. Cool. I hope that is a clear explanation on your question. Thank you so much, Dhananjay. Right. So the next piece, I know I've been going on about RDS, and these are just some write-ups, and I'm saying this because increasingly I'm also personally observing that there are a number of customers who are getting tired of that whole licensing piece and that whole punitive contract piece, where as a customer they're subjected to endless frequent changes to their terms and conditions in their contract, and even though they are the paying customer, they sort of get the sense that they have no choice but to say yes, right? Especially when it comes to old guard commercial grade databases. Now they don't have to put up with this anymore. There are options where they can free themselves, right, and jump onto database platform services that offers them enterprise grade performance, without having to go into those kind of licensing and punitive contracts. Basically enterprise commercial grade performance that behaves like an open source database engine, right? I suppose that's at the end of the day what I really wanted to say. So the key takeaway is if we just look at Amazon RDS on VMware, specifically VMware vSphere, the key takeaway is that the RDS integration on VMware vSphere provides the same administrative user experience as in AWS itself. So for the past 9 years, right, just to share with you some background information, for the past 9 years, Amazon RDS has been alleviating and helping customers to reduce the pain of database management for hundreds of thousands of customers, right? Just by just looking at customers who've migrated their database onto AWS using a service called Database Migration Service alone, that's about 130,000 of them, right? We have helped customers, all these hundreds of thousands of customers, by delivering on RDS high availability, high durability, and security for databases that are running on AWS. So VMware RDS Amazon RDS on VMware will bring, it's not an aim, it's not an objective, we will bring this same experience to our VMware-based data centers. So in a nutshell, Amazon RDS on VMware manages databases from the ground to the cloud. It enables customers and gives them access to AWS through a single, simple interface. It automates database provisioning, operating system, patching of the database, backup, point-in-time restores, then having to worry about scaling their storage or disk replacements, or even things like scaling for their compute, monitoring their instance health, and even down to the point of failover. We help customers to do this. So customers can also make use of the features in RDS for VMware to enable for low-cost, high-availability hybrid deployments, database disaster recovery to AWS, read replica bursting to RDS in the cloud, as well as think about using it for long-term database archival on the simple storage service S3, where it gives them 11 nines of durability at very low cost, right? So there you go. Right now, RDS on VMware is already available, but it's only available in the US East region, US West region, Frankfurt, as well as Tokyo, right, to my understanding. We will expand this in the upcoming year and months, okay? I hope this is exciting to you, because we literally see a lot of customers getting a lot of benefit from freeing up their databases and getting them to run on AWS. Cool? Right, so your opportunities, not just managed services, but also think about database migration, database management, helping customers to build a hybrid environment, and stuff like that. And this next piece, I want to bring even more relevance to you by focusing on what is going on around the world today, This is not an easy topic to talk about because so many lives have been negatively impacted by the COVID-19 situation. But I want to take this opportunity to share with you our view of business continuity that customers can have by leveraging VMware Cloud on AWS. All right. So when it comes to business continuity in the current COVID-19 crisis, right, around the world, there are two broad challenges, right? The first set of challenges, if you look on the left-hand side of this slide, are needs that are created. And on the right-hand side is the time to resolution constraints. So there are two different sets of things. When it comes to the needs, right, the COVID-19 situation has brought about what we see as three broad categories. One, either they need to scale the infrastructure very rapidly in order to deal with the business that they will otherwise be doing physically, right? And this is very important, especially when it comes to trying to avoid business disruptions, right? Being, for example, their logistics supply chain, right? Their order taking, message queuing, as an example. The second set of needs is how do they facilitate for the same intranet or the inter-employee communication, as well as company to customer conversation. And as part and parcel of this, increasingly, a lot of companies are finding that, hey, we're going to need virtual desktops, right? So they can choose to set up their VDI, their virtual desktop infrastructure for their remote workforce very quickly using VMC on AWS. Now, they have an option. In my previous sessions, somebody has asked me a question. Why are we talking about VDI on VMC rather than AWS workspaces? Have you heard of this service called Workspaces from AWS? Yes, thank you, Hazel. Right, so Workspaces, for those of you who might not have heard of it, this is also a virtual desktop solution, right? What we're saying right now is customers have a choice, right? If customers are using VMware and then they're thinking of extending their VMware to VMC, in the same breath, they can also think about creating VDIs for their own employees using VMware, right? Now, if they are not, then they can choose to use Workspaces, whichever one works best for them from a performance, fat fingers, performance to cost ratio, which one gives them the biggest value. Right, so Dhananjay is saying that it's not very prevalent. Are you saying it's not very prevalent in India? All right. Oh, okay. Is that because everyone has access to a laptop or a compute device of some sort when they are home-based? VMware. Okay. You were referring to Workspaces. Yeah, I agree. The degree of or rather the ratio of Workspaces to VMware VDI to Citrix VDI, it varies from country to country, right? But I personally am not surprised that VDI has more deployment examples compared to Workspaces. Although we do have some marquee customers using Workspaces, like what was that? It's not Adobe. Wait, I'll get to that. It's right on top of my tongue. But yeah, there we go. The last need is customers in COVID-19, the COVID-19 crisis. We see that a lot of them are finding out that they need to mitigate risk in case of these disaster events, and primarily they're preparing for a situation where their IT personnel cannot travel to their data center facilities. And for me personally, I think that the situation is more dire in the sense that it's not just about the IT personnel not being able to travel there. It's about the availability of resources should a disaster event occur, right? Meaning to say that even for the vendors, right, the distributors, I spent almost 4 years in the IT distribution space. For vendors in this climate, right? Firstly, because of the economic situation pre-COVID, it's not so good. So the number of stockists have actually reduced, right? As part and parcel of that, waiting time, lead times seem to have increased, right? This is the trend that I see globally, right? For my friends as well. But above and beyond that, because of the COVID-19 situation, vendors might not necessarily have people, or they might not necessarily be able to do logistics as fast as they were used to. So, an already lengthened lead time might lengthen even further. Some of the customers that I have are struggling with, so even if the physical assets, right, like for example, the servers or switches or the routers, right, get sent on premise, they're trying to figure out what kind of process do they need to make sure that these equipment are safe, right, to be touched. It gets a bit granular like that, but these are real life challenges that customers are facing. So what if we can give them a means to achieve all of these three really readily and really quickly? And the answer is there. The answer is VMC on AWS. Now, things get a bit more exacerbated when you look at the flip side, the time to resolution constraints, where customers either have a mandate or have a requirement or find themselves being caught in a situation where they need to use the same tools and skill sets that's being used on premise right now. Right, but they have to do scaling. They, for some reason, they have to move to the cloud. So VMC is an answer for that. Or if they have the need to interoperate between current environments or any new environment, so to have that sort of consistency is very important to them. Or three, in terms of consistency, it's not just from an experience or management point of view, but it's also about security and governance over the existing as well as their new environment, right? So these are the constraints that they face. So if we envelop all of these, we really do see that VMware Cloud on AWS is a ready answer to help customers with their business continuity on in the current situation. So there's three ways that generally we can help to alleviate the infrastructure supply chain disruptions, mitigate infrastructure risk due to crisis-related restrictions, as well as three, enable the workforce to require to participate remotely, quickly, and readily. Right. So I'm gonna leave you to read these three on your own. Again, I'd like to remind you that this Site Recovery Manager is a native tool or native solution from VMware, and it's chargeable, right? But as far as I can see, it's a very easy and quick way to migrate. To restore or recover the site. Is there anyone right now in this group that we have today who has experience with the Site Recovery Manager or SRM? No? That's fine. Don't worry about it. But I have heard that it's a pretty good tool. Okay. Right. Now, when in diving deeper into that, right, when it comes to on-demand capacity to meet urgent capacity needs. I've put in some details for you that you might want to think about that customers might find valuable. So on the left-hand side here, right, this is how we can help customers with creating their consistent infrastructure and operations, as well as provide them with the enterprise-grade infrastructure within a very short span of time. And the value to the customer is on the right-hand side. The key capabilities where we have on the second way to help customers with business continuity in terms of being able to proactively mitigate risk, right, is here. The key capabilities of the SRM is listed on the left-hand side, whereas the benefits coming off of that is on the right-hand side. I would like to draw your attention to this last part on reduce errors, because in certain situations, customers might have to be answerable, right, to be it either internal or external audits of their DR environment. Now, when they're using a tool like Site Recovery Manager, you will find that along the list of DR procedures, Site Recovery Manager would already help customers answer some of those audit requirements. Okay, so like for example, perhaps an SLA on post failover cluster scaling, or things like being able to, or a requirement to comply with a certain kind of security topology, right? As far as network goes, so these things are there for the customer. Okay, and last but not least, if customers want to use Horizon 7 on VMC on AWS, that's absolutely doable. And with remote work, with the whole VDI sort of provisioning, you'll find that it's very quick. It's one-to-many, and they can spin up virtual desktops in a matter of seconds. All they have to do is to make use of cloning. And they can, off of the back end, scale their host capacity very quickly in minutes. They can choose to use auto scaling, right, to automate that scaling process and make that scaling horizontal rather than vertical. In such a situation, they can scale with demand, right, and they will only pay for what they consume, no more than what they consume, all right? So it is a very unified sort of a hybrid desktop environment. The administrators have full control over what the employees will see or have access to from a remote work environment. And if you pair that up with the identity and access management service from AWS, you can ensure that you have authorization as well as authentication deployed to best practices, right? And multi-factor authentication if you need it to, right? So there you go. Here are some more details surrounding those and what we can do for the customers. And as icing on the cake, ladies and gentlemen, I have also included some use cases like PennyMac, where very recently they have migrated 4,500 desktops onto AWS using VDI. Right, this is really good. They plan to exit 2 data centers by the end of this year, and they've, along with the journey with us, they've already stopped purchasing any new hardware since 2017, and they're scaling. Right, so it meets the business needs. They find that they have cost reduction, and everything else is so much simpler for them. Right, so feel free to read into this case study. PHH Mortgage, I've mentioned that earlier. I personally find this very intriguing because they've managed to move 350 VMs to VMware Cloud on AWS in just a matter of a few days, right? And in shutting down the secondary DR site has saved them quite a fair bit of money as well, right? And helped them to curb their capex expenditure, all right? last but wait, actually, this is the third one. This is a law firm that specializes in injury. They find DR very expensive to do, so they have right now come up with an environment where that they have a virtual desktop infrastructure, and it only takes a few hours to go from zero to full swing production environment. Okay, so this is them, and last but not least, Dell Technologies. Okay, so Dell Technologies is an AWS partner. They are an AWS customer as well. Very interesting. So we have helped Dell to be able to burst into the cloud over just a few days. They have their hands-on labs virtual environment for a premier event built on AWS. And the problem they had back then was to be able to scale to support 28,000 virtual machines for 3,900 hands-on labs environments in a 4-day event. So you can imagine if they were to physically provision for this, it's going to be really expensive to do. Right. There was a private question. Is it working for existing VDI customers or for new customers? So the case studies that I've shared with all of you are already existing customers, and we're saying that with these, you can use this as case studies to share with new customers who are thinking about deploying VDI or who have a need for VDI or virtual desktops. Yeah. Cool. I hope that answers your question. All right, cool. It's 3:23 my time right now, and this should translate to about 1 p.m. your time, right? Am I getting the timing about right? What about roughly 1 p.m. Right? Cool. Thank you, Manas. 7 minutes to 1 p.m. Right, cool. Right, so we should be ending today's course. Wait, are we supposed to end about 1 p.m.? Yeah, I think we're supposed to end about 1 p.m., right? Your time? Whoops. Okay. I have deliberately dived deep on all those case studies. And I'm going to go really light on the sales processes and how you engage on AWS and some of the requirements, because I think those case studies are very important in helping you to think about where there are opportunities. All right. Now, we're going to just very quickly go into the sales process. While VMware on VMware Cloud on AWS is sold and supported by VMware, the sales process is a joint effort that evolves around 3 parties, right? Revolves around you as a partner, AWS, as well as VMware. So AWS partner sales managers, they're the ones who work with the partners to validate and qualify VMware opportunities and see where they fit in terms of a funding perspective coming off of AWS, right? So together, they engage with the VMware teams to address the more customer-specific needs that you might otherwise have, and work jointly to help accelerate and close opportunities for you, right, alongside with you. So partners, we need partners to help us with identifying and registering potential opportunities with AWS. And after the sale is completed, we seriously need our our partners' help to continue to work together with us, as well as the customer, to drive the sort of consumption from the customer, as well as the growth from the customer. So this includes things like identifying additional AWS services needs or services opportunities that might benefit the customer. For example, things like, hey, now that you have RDS on Amazon RDS on VMware, do you want to think about migrating that non-relational database that you have onto AWS as well? And if you do, what about creating a data warehouse on the AWS by using something that AWS has called Redshift? All right. or utilizing our AML technology to help them to uncover underlying correlations and build automated processes or predictions, or do forecasting, or to do even things like fraud detection. Okay. The engagement model that I've described to you just now looks like this from a time frame or graphical representation point of view. And registering opportunities on AWS is really easy. All you have to do is log on to your Partner Central, and with that, you can register your opportunities with us, right? Now, the other side of registering opportunities early, and we strongly encourage that, is that so that we can provision for resource allocation, so that we know how to help you, when to help you, and make sure that the resources are in place and in time, okay? There are some program requirements, right? So firstly, VMware Cloud on AWS is a resell motion, so you'll be reselling, right? VMware Cloud on AWS. So partners must be in the solution providers program to be eligible. We call this SPP, right? Solutions Provider Program, right? To be eligible to transact sales of the VMware Cloud service for the end users. So an update to this SPP agreement allows for this kind of a transactional capability, right? There might be additional requirements on top of the current SPP requirements for partners to fulfill in time to come. So I encourage you to check with your partner development manager, PDM or PDR, or partner manager, or your SPP, our SPP team for more information. Now, if you don't have access to these people and you will like them, please do not forget that the partner trainers are your resource as well. Feel free to reach out to Abhinav. Let me just make sure that I'm spelling his name correctly, folks. Sorry. Abhinav or Parvesh, my fellow partner trainers in India, or feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to connect you, right? So there you go. Now, that being said, there are also requirements coming off from VMware side. So when we look at the pricing options and account structure, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Now, I'm going to, as promised, share with you a link to help you better understand pricing. This link is available on the material as well, but I just want to make sure that you get it right here, right now. Right, it looks like we are 1 minute away from the end of today's session. Would it be okay if I ask for another 15 minutes or so? If that's all right with you? Please let me know in the chat. Thank you, Hazel. Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Abhishek. Right, cool, thank you, everyone. I sincerely apologize for overrunning on time, but I really want to make sure that you get the most out of today's session. All right, cool. So VMware Cloud on AWS has a very flexible and consumption-based sort of a billing and payment options, right? So because we do understand customers have different kinds of needs. So buying and paying for VMC on AWS is really simple and easy, right? So VMware accepts several payment methods that you can see right off on here. The payment for VMware Cloud can be made through either the VMware subscription purchase program, referred to also as SPP. I know it's confusing. I do apologize for that. This is by coincidence. VMware calls it SPP, subscription purchase program, right? They can either use that, or they can use hybrid purchasing program, or HPP. These works in the forms of credits. So credit cards and purchase orders are also payment options for the customers. Now, there are two size options for the number of hosts in the VMware Cloud cluster. cloud cluster, right? Either one host or three hosts. The one host solution is available more as an experimentation basis, meaning to say it's for a duration of a fixed 3 months. So it is not meant for production. Okay, so the customer must convert to a production environment or abandon that service at the end of the 3-month window. Right. So there are more details in the link that I have shared with you, where you can see pricing. That's also on a region specific point of view, as well as in different currencies. Now, I like to share with you that please keep in mind that all the figures that's shown in this site that I've shared with you, those are list prices. So depending on the customer's existing terms and contracts with VMware, they might be eligible for additional discounts or credits. Okay. Now, again, please know that this SPP or HPP, meaning a subscription purchase program or the hybrid purchasing program, these are owned by VMware. Okay. Please repeat. Sorry, Dhananjay, which part would you like me to repeat? 3 months. Okay. So the two sizing options, right, is one host or three hosts, right? On a in a VMware cloud cluster. Now, if the customer chooses to use one host, now this one host solution has a fixed 3-month window, right? And if it's meant for something like a POC, right? It's not meant for production. So at the end of the 3-month window for this one host solution, the customer must convert it to a production environment where it's where it's 3 hosts, or abandon the service totally. I hope that's clear for you. Now, as far as I understand at this point in time, because it hasn't realized yet, but certainly do keep your fingers on it. AWS is working very closely with VMware to bring value to the customers by trying to come up with a 2-host option. Okay, it hasn't happened yet, right? We are working the kinks out, but certainly keep your eyes on this. Okay, so aside from a 1-host or 3-host option, customers in the near future could very well have a 2-host option. Cool. I hope that brings benefits to your customers as well, especially if they're looking at slightly smaller workloads or a smaller number of VMs. Okay. Cool. So aside from these, worth noting is a program called a hybrid loyalty program. So this is a very interesting program meant for existing customers of VMware who have invested in VMware's perpetual licenses on-prem. Right. So this hybrid loyalty program, or HLP for short, allows customers to buy VMC on AWS at an even lower rate. So they have a pay-per-use option, which allows them to scale the licenses up and down on demand, or they can purchase a 1-year or 3-year subscription plan for additional discounts. So look out for customers who are already, having this hybrid loyalty. Who have in existence a perpetual licenses on premise with VMware. If they are eligible for this, it makes that pricing discussion that you have much easier. Okay. Now, when it comes to account structure, this is where it gets a little bit complicated. Now, VMware Cloud on AWS is a VMware service, right? So it runs on top, it's built on top and runs on top of AWS infrastructure. So as a result, and I've mentioned this briefly earlier, 2 AWS accounts are needed. One for the VMC service, the other one for the additional AWS services that the customer consumes. So when we look at this first part here, right, where it's the VMware Cloud portion, right? So when a customer purchases VMC on AWS, VMware themselves will create an AWS account for the customer. This is like the cloud SDDC account, which is dedicated to that single customer. This account is owned and operated by VMware, and customers do not have access to this account. Okay, VMware will bill them, right? Coming off of what the customers consume off of this account. The second account, which is on the right-hand side that you can see over here, right? Now, this second account is the customer's AWS account. The customer owns and has full access to this account. They use it to provision for additional AWS services. As part of the VMware cloud on AWS service, there will be automatically a network connection that's created between the customer's AWS account, this one, right, with the VMware Cloud on AWS account for them, right? So they don't have to do anything on their part, but there are two accounts that exist, just in case, they are wondering. Clear so far? So far, so good, everyone? Cool. Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, Feroz. Right. Thank you, Rishi. Thank you, Debgiri. Right. Now, as far as the partner requirements on VMware side goes, now, I'm going to skip this AWS bit because we've already talked about this. We encourage partners to be at least on the advanced tier. This is not a hard rule, but we strongly encourage this because, this is the tier that demonstrates the sort of references and, capability or competency. So it makes it easier for you to earn trust with the customers. And it's okay if you are currently not on the advanced tier. We have a program called Navigate that sort of acts as a guide for you to achieve the milestones along the way, gain competency, and move up the partner tiers. So feel free to check out this thing called AWS Navigate, right? Now, from VMware, right, VMware requires partners to be in one of VMware's partner programs, right? So as a partner, you can participate in either the solution provider program or the VMware cloud provider program. And partners must achieve the VMware Partner Network Professional or Enterprise or Premium level. This is a condition from VMware. Okay. And completion, the partners must also, achieve completion of one or both of VMware's competencies for VMware Cloud on AWS. The two are solutions competency or master services competency. So this will help to ensure that, the purpose of doing this, right, is to help to ensure partner has the following VMware accreditations in place. 3 of them. Sales Professional Accreditation, Technical Solutions Professional Accreditation, as well as Technical Post-Sales Accreditation. Okay, so just be aware of this. Being an AWS partner is not enough. You need to meet all these requirements in order to be able to go into that resell motion. But I assure you, that it is absolutely very meaningful to do this because the kind of windows and of opportunities that I shared with you earlier that are very ready will be accessible to you once you've done that. All right, which brings us to the end of our session today. I've taken the liberty to put in a lot of resources for you. Aside from what I've shared with you already, and as part and parcel of the last thing that I would like to share with you for today is the last case study. As you can tell, I'm a fan of case studies. If this is a live course where we have a bit more time, you will typically find me, and different partner trainers have different styles. I'm the sort who likes to use a case study, break it down to the core business case and business issue, and go deep into how do we replicate this across industries. But unfortunately, in a virtual delivery modality, we don't have too much time to do that. But I would encourage you to look into this last case study at your free time. This is of a customer called S&P Global Ratings, right? So this is a company that they provide that independent credit ratings, right, for a lot of banks and folks in the FSI industry. So they are on AWS as well. They've used AWS to speed up their application migration as well as drive innovation that they otherwise would struggle or will find a challenge with, right? So hopefully all of these are useful to you. Now, before you go, I sincerely hope that today has been a useful session for you and that it has helped to bring benefit to your day jobs. I have one final ask. I would like to ask that at the end of this session, for you to go to your transcript and look at today's course. You should be able to see, after I finish marking attendance, a button that says evaluate. Now, I'd like to ask that you spend 5 minutes. I promise you will not take you more than 5 minutes to provide us with the feedback of this course. Oh, thank you so much, Hazel. You're very kind. It's a very quick multiple choice survey. Let us know what is good and why, so that we can keep it. And also let us know what is not good, what doesn't work for you, right? So that we can address those areas for improvement and work on those. We hope to certainly bring higher and higher value to all of our partners every time we have a training delivery. Okay, so with that, thank you so much. I thank you in advance for your candid feedback, and I hope to see you again sometime soon. Yes, I will send you an individual email on the slides for this. As well as if you look at the pricing link that I've shared with you, you scroll down a little bit, you'll find a sizing tooler. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this just now. That helps you to size what you need on VMC Cloud, on VMC on AWS. But yeah, I will send the slides to everyone after the session ends. All right? So with that, thank you all so much for joining me today, and thank you all so much for this extension of time. I wish all of you a good day ahead, and you, your family, as well as your friends, safety and good health in these difficult times. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you all. Yeah, feel free to jump off, because if I jump off first, then the session will end abruptly, and I don't want to be rude. Thank you all so much. Thank you.